Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Carb Watch, and I'm so excited about this episode. I'm here with Chuck Morris from the Jackson Avenue Tea Company. Chuck, how you doing?
Great.
How was your drive?
How are you doing, Ben? Good.
Because the Jackson Avenue Tea Company is in my hometown of Knoxville, and we are in Kingsport today at the Kingsport location. Your drive was okay?
Here in Studio 1A, yeah.
Yes. They were really impressed with our studio here, and I'm actually, I feel great about that.
It's perfect. The green room has a bed in it.
So. Yeah, I mean, we have a full-blown apartment here, and there's so many things we can do. We can go work out, lots to get any of the anxieties out.
Absolutely.
Before we start
I should have done that before I sat down.
You seem so nervous.
I'm really nervous.
I know you did a few bench presses before.
Yeah.
And you still look as good as you do.
Some leg lifts. I got some weights on here.
Well, Chuck, we brought you in today to talk a little bit about mushrooms.
Yeah.
And mushrooms seems to be a hot topic in the health and wellness world. Why don't you start us off by, maybe how you got into it and why mushrooms has become kind of a thing, because it's a thing and everyone's hearing about it. I'm hearing about it. We're super fascinated by it. I know Dr. Rogers is really into mushrooms, and there's different language around how to use them.
Yeah.
Why don't you just kind of give us a little intro?
Sure. Well, a lot of mushrooms that are being used clinically and just in healthcare in general right now are classified as adaptogens. And an adaptogen is a type of ingestible, which a mushroom would be, that helps the body maintain what's called homeostasis, which is just balance, in your hormone levels, your cholesterol, your lipids, your anything that helps the body function well. Can be influenced by adaptogens, and there are about 3 different mushrooms that we kind of focus on at Jackson Avenue Tea, and we're just kind of getting into this too. We've noticed that it's certainly something people are interested in. They ask about it. Herbals in general are things that we are beginning to do in addition to tea.
Well, mushrooms wouldn't be considered an herbal, though, right?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But because it's related to health and tea we call slow beverage. You have to be very intentional to consume tea and to consume tea for health. Same with mushrooms, same with herbals. So 3 types of mushrooms. Rishi, R-E-I-S-H-I, that's the Japanese name for it, is a type of mushroom that has been known to combat all kinds of things in the body that causes problems. Cancer cells, Parkinson's, glioblastoma. I mean, there are peer-reviewed articles at the National Institutes of Health and in the Journal of the American Medical Association that talk about some of the studies they've been doing with mushrooms in particular and the whole class of mushrooms that we call adaptogens. The other 2 are lion's mane and chaga.
So would Rishi be the ones that most people are hearing about in regards to the health and wellness community?
It's the biggie.
Okay.
It's the one that, and in fact, I brought a package of it here today.
So these are mushrooms
that have been dehydrated and then powderized, basically. So what we haven't done this yet, but what we're about to do with these, with Rishi, is blend it with a tea that will make it taste better because it's kind of bitter. So you can put it in beverages and drink it as a tea.
So how are people consuming it now sans the tea? So like if not in a tea, how are people consuming Rishi mushrooms? Is it through like a supplement or something like that? Okay.
They're widely available supplements that have, I take one right now actually in pill form that has about 7 different types of medicinal mushrooms in it.
And so, and this is just Rishi. So this
That's
is not,
right.
Okay, that's super fascinating to me. And,
Yep.
and I'm kind of thinking about the slow beverage, in terms of, golly, it's so fine.
Yeah, it is.
That is unbelievable.
So it's mixable. A lot of people will use mushrooms in coffee because the flavor profiles match up a little bit.
Does it dissolve?
This will not dissolve, but there are powderized versions. There's a company called Four Sigmatic that some people may have heard of that has a really nice lion's mane and chaga coffee that is powderized, that does dissolve in hot water.
And lion's mane and chaga is the 2 and 3 in terms of the types of mushrooms, which still have some medicinal capabilities.
Yeah, all of them again classified as adaptogens, and what we mean by adaptogens, primary feature of an adaptogen, it helps the body maintain homeostasis, and it does no harm. So when you're super stressed, what happens is cortisol is released into the bloodstream, and we know what cortisol does, right? It causes weight gain. It can cause headaches. When cortisol floods the bloodstream, all kinds of bad things happen. What adaptogens do is kind of knock all that down, keep us in an anti-inflammatory and antioxidative place in all of our systems, our blood, and it's been shown to help anxiety, help depression, and then all those other nasty things like Parkinson's and cancer that we talk about too.
It seems like what I'm hearing is it does all these good things by getting us back in balance.
That's right.
So the adaptogen part is basically just getting your body back to the way it's supposed to be.
Yep.
And that's what's, can't say curing, but that's what's helping with all these other health issues we might have.
Yep.
CBD oil is an adaptogen. Is that right?
Yes. Cannabidiol, I always screw that up.
That's such a tough word.
Is the compound that's in the hemp plant that helps the body regulate all of these things too. So,
Well, one thing I'm
same
interested
class.
Is this new findings? Because we're talking about some things. Mushrooms just seems to be new to me in the sense that it's coming out. Maybe we heard on Joe Rogan, or it's becoming like a thing.
Yep.
And
Tim Ferriss.
Yes, they're all talking about it. And so, is this based on new research or something, or has this always been the case? It's just now getting into light.
I think it's just becoming mainstream because I think people are. I just sense this, and we hear it from our tea customers. People are dialing in, I think, a little bit more into their health, and they're taking some responsibility for it. And they're saying, what else don't I know about what I could do for myself that would help improve my health across the board?
Well, and you and I have had these conversations before, in just with the healthcare industry in general. I think patients, we're all becoming a little suspect of what's happening in the pharmaceutical industry. So we're looking for these natural alternatives. I know it's a cliche, saying, but we're looking for things that are, naturally helping us get back to, homeostasis or within balance, getting our hormones to, operate the way that they're supposed to.
Right.
And it seems like, now mushrooms is that. Now, is there any downside to it? Like any downside to supplementing with mushrooms, whether it be through tea or through, sublingual?
You can have some GI upset. There aren't many downsides to taking mushrooms. You have to take the right mushrooms, though, too.
Sure.
So you might have also heard of psilocybin, which are the hallucinogens.
Which is also, there's a lot of stuff around psychedelics, which is just super fascinating. I don't, know enough about it to really talk about it, but I know that there's a lot of really good research behind some of it. And I'm fascinated with where that's going to go in the next, 5-10 years, maybe shorter. Yeah. But that's not what we're talking about.
Lots of studies on neuroplasticity. Easy for me to say. No, that's not what we're talking about. Psilocybin is a whole other type of mushroom. So
let's do like a little comparison here. Would CBD is to marijuana as a reishi mushroom is to psilocybin? Are there certain
That's a hard jump,
right?
And I'm probably not qualified to make it. But I see what you're saying.
Yes.
You know, there are compounds in all of these things that are we're finding more, I think, are beneficial for the body. The Chinese have known this for thousands of years. I mean, it seems kind of silly to me that we're just kind of, oh yeah, why don't we? Well, let's take some Rishi. Let's take some lion's mane. But they've been doing it forever in traditional Chinese medicine. And in Asian culture, it's just, it's just accepted as the norm.
I'd be interested in the Chinese culture. Are they consuming it through tea?
Absolutely.
So that's like a part of
the same way we do too, in pill form and supplements. Basically, any way that you can take it is going to be beneficial. Lots of immunity benefits from these mushrooms. So in the time of a pandemic, we all want to boost our immune system. Obviously, we need to get more sleep. We need to get some exercise. But one of the things that's beautiful about mushrooms, I think, is if you're doing some of those right things, it just helps push it along. You know, it gets your body is adaptable. It's resilient. It wants to be in homeostasis. And these compounds that are found in mushrooms just help it get there. Anti-inflammatory, antioxidation, antidepressive, anti-anxiety. So all those things help us, live better lives.
As soon as you said that, immediately I'm thinking, well, man, tea is a good way to get the mushroom components because, we've talked a lot about the routine, the ritualism of it. Just that automatically puts you in a calm state.
Yep.
Your body might receive, some of these. I don't know if we call them nutrients or not, but these health benefits from the mushroom.
Yeah,
which is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, Wendy was telling me earlier that a lot of these mushrooms in their natural form are really earthy and bitter.
Yep.
What was it? It was Rishi is in Asian translation means smell of horse. No, that's ashwagandha. Is that right? But a lot of these compounds have these names in Asian culture, but they're bitter most of the time. When Wendy was saying earlier that peppermint, for instance, peppermint tea, which is an herbal, blends well with all kinds of things and can help these bitter beneficial compounds in mushrooms just be a little more palatable, if we're going to make hot tea from them.
Yeah, and one thing I know, my dad, Dr. Rogers, loves like this stuff, and he loves what mushrooms can do for you, but he doesn't like eating mushrooms at the dinner table.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that all the nutrients are in those mushrooms versus, getting it this way. I don't know, maybe you don't know either. It's actually
the common white mushroom that we see on salads has a lot of beneficial compounds. So
I'm thinking uncooked, kind of just is it raw?
You can eat them raw. Typically, you're going to want to cook them a little bit.
Okay.
Blanch them, but again, the raw kind of mushroom you see on a salad versus the sautéed kind of mushroom you might see on a steak, very beneficial for health and immunity.
It's really interesting.
Huge.
And this would be something that could supplement for that if you don't love eating mushrooms with your steak or whatever. Isn't it an exact replacement, or it's a different type of mushroom for one?
Different type of mushroom. I'd say of all the mushrooms, like if you said I hate mushrooms, I don't want to take them. If you could only pick one, I'd pick reishi.
Okay, so pick one, pick reishi. Now the other thing I want to ask is, getting back to the tea component, is this a morning, midday, nighttime sort of thing in your opinion? Like, what do you think we should do in terms of drinking mushroom tea?
Very good question. I think sometimes people are just they're different in how it affects them. So I would try both.
Just to see where, exactly.
How does it make you feel? Like, for instance, sometimes when you're taking supplements in the morning, you can get a little bit sick to your stomach. Particularly if you don't have anything on your stomach, you're just popping supplements and heading out the door with a cup of coffee, like I do. I don't do a big breakfast thing. But and sometimes people, when they take it at night, it revs them up. Like if you're taking it with a caffeinated tea, you wouldn't want to take that before bed, right? So, because it would just keep you awake. So I would just experiment with it. In general, I think what works for me is a morning dose of some kind.
Okay, so you can pick how you what sort of tea you put your mushroom blend in.
Absolutely.
That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
So you can use it with caffeine in the morning, or you can do it from a more calming sense at night.
Yep.
Now, because I know I got to let you go, but I want to ask, is it similar in the way you steep tea? So like, are you putting that in the tea blend or the herb blend from a tea bag standpoint, and then the water steeps through?
Mm-hmm. We have these little things called tea sacks in the store, and they're just these little pouches. You throw it in there with whatever flavor you want to throw it in there with, and steep it for a little bit. I always tell people to kind of experiment. Some people like a more robust flavor, and depending on the tea, if you get the temperature of the water too hot, and if you steep too long, you can get all of these things into bitterness, and you don't want that. Tea has tannins in it. Black teas do, and so it's almost the same as wine or anything else that has tannins. You can get some of that bitterness that you don't really want. So I say experiment with it, and you're gonna still get the beneficial compounds, but just see what your own taste buds tell you.
Would you say that kind of tea culture is around this experimentation too, in terms of just figuring out what you like, figuring out how long the perfect steep is, just out of curiosity?
Yeah.
It's all about just kind of figuring out, okay, I like this. This makes me feel good or whatever.
Most teas, for instance, you can steep twice. You can use a tea bag twice. I don't like that because I want all of the flavor of the tea, and the second steep really isn't strong enough for me. So, just experiment with it. See what you like.
Now, I'm going to ask you, because I know a lot of people out here listening will think this. Can they get this now? Is this something that is ready to go, or is this something that's in the works at the moment?
For Jackson Avenue Tea, it's in the works.
Okay.
We're working with a company in Maryville.
Okay.
It's been doing this a long time. It's an organic growing farm, and they're the ones who they've been doing this for years with hydroponics too, where they're growing the mycelium, which is the roots of the mushroom, as it were, that kind of grow underground. This giant, thing that spreads underground, and then the mushrooms themselves are the fruit of this mycelium. The bloom.
Okay.
The mycelium itself, if you stuck it in a bag, gives off carbon dioxide. Turns out carbon dioxide is really good for plants when you try to grow them hydroponically indoors. So they've been doing that kind of thing for years, and they're just doing a whole bunch of new research with all the different types of mushrooms they can grow too. So
they're using the root, and now they're using the fruit of the...
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah. So they're growing mushrooms on barks and woods, and then the mycelium, of course, can help grow tomatoes hydroponically, or all kinds of other things hydroponically, which I won't get into. Related to your hemp discussion.
Yes. Yeah. Well, man, this has been so fascinating, and I'm so appreciative. You literally just got off the road, and we put a camera right up to your face. So thank you so much for joining me
You
here.
bet.
Why don't you tell everybody how to find Jackson Avenue Tea Company?
Sure. Well, if you've been to Knoxville downtown, we're on Jackson Avenue, right across from Balter Beer Works.
Okay.
And so go have a beer and a burger, and then come across the street and buy some tea from us.
Website, socials?
Yeah, JacksonAvenueTea.com, just all spelled out. And we're on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, LinkedIn, Etsy. Wendy says Etsy now too. We're all over.
The whole gamut.
We're everywhere.
Google Jackson Avenue Tea Company. You will find them. And huge shout out to Jackson Avenue. The bridge is now kind of...
It's open.
It's open now. I was shocked to see that the other day. I went to sweet peas for lunch, and I was like, holy cow, I can drive up here now.
Yeah,
So
all the way to Gay Street.
Kudos to all the businesses on Jackson Avenue Tea Company, or sorry, Jackson Avenue Tea Company, all the businesses on Jackson Avenue who have, withstood that. That was a huge deal. So we're pumped to have that bridge back up.
Yeah.
Chuck Morris, man, thanks so much.
Thank you, Ben. Good
All
to
right,
see you.
man.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you guys next time.